Kingdom Zered had two steps to select their king. First, he must kill his own brothers at the blood sacrifice ceremony and ascend to the throne. Second, he must take a life of an innocent woman to remove any kind of empathy and emotions from his heart. Kingdom Zered was a cruel place, built on the blood of its warriors, sacrifices of other kingdoms, and cries of women. Round the year it was filled in snow. The temperature was always the coldest among everything its people had ever seen. Built on fear and blood of the royal family, it was also feared among other kingdoms. No war was won against them. Spies were murdered brutally. No kingdom dared send one. Kingdom Serer was the most powerful and prosperous one. And tonight was a blood sacrifice ceremony. It happens once every generation. The king is to bear at least four sons. Once the youngest son turned 13, the blood sacrifice ritual must take place. The rulers of the kingdoms were believed in ruling without emotions, only logic to grow the economy and relations. Thus, first take place is a ritual to sacrifice an innocent woman. Not a guilty prisoner, not a sinner, not a criminal, but an innocent, harmless woman. If they can kill one, this is their first step towards the throne, first step towards inhumanity. The one whose sword first slashes the woman earns the favor of the king and his people. Right now, in the huge throne room stood four brothers, each dressed up for the day as the biggest day of their lives. Gold and luxury dripped from their head to toe. Their followers stood in the audience, secretly supporting them. And the woman, an innocent, fragile woman on her knees, the red marks of shackles on her wrist from earlier were so visible in that plain white dress. She looked like a broken angel prepared to be sacrificed. As the ritual begins with the eldest prince, John Jae-hoon, John Jungkook, John Jae-shin, and the youngest, John Jamin. The first one to slash the target earns the favor by the king and his people, was announced among many other lines. As the ceremony began and the swords were handed to the princess, they descended the stairs. The woman named Wine could only see them as grim reapers fighting to take her life. Once she raised her eye, a crystal tear dropped her eye. She looked broken, like she had already accepted her fate. Once the red flags were dropped, the four princes rushed over to the woman 70 meters away from the clash. In between, the swords were exchanged, blood was drawn, swords clashed. It was not the round to kill each other, but it didn't mean anyone was getting out of it unscathed. When they finally approached the women, already filled in blood, there stood their second eldest brother, Prince John Jungkook, a slash across his arm which caused his white attire to turn crimson red. He stood guarded in front of the woman. The suspense and thrill spread over the audience. The princess looked baffled. If he reached the sacrifice, why was not he killing her? In fact, what Jungkook did next took them all by great shock. He dug his sword in his youngest brother's heart, killing him on the spot. Prince Jungkook, this act is not allowed in this round, was yelled, but Jungkook is smirked, as blood of his own brother was splattered on his face. He slid the sword out, the body fell limp on the ground. The other two princes alert, drawing their swords now towards Jungkook instead of the woman. It wasn't long before Jungkook had ended the other two as well, leaving the woman alone. She stayed on the ground, her eyes at the back of her savior, the murderer, the cruel, the next to the throne. Prince Jungkook, are you aware of your actions? JK, what's wrong with my actions? It was to be done, now or later. It rendered them speechless as Jungkook strode towards the throne where his father, the king, was seated. His sword now dipped in the blood of his brothers as he stopped before the king. The rules were broken, but the king rejoiced, seeing his son like this. King Dumsirid always preferred cruelty over any other thing. As the king prepared to congratulate his son, a sword slashed across his chest, drawing blood out of his mouth along with his heart. The troop of warriors present there all drew out their swords surrounding Prince Jungkook. The king lost his breath. Jungkook pulled out the sword now having killed every member of his own blood. He turned towards the warrior and his kingdom. Jage, kneel. As of today, I am your king. It took not more than 2 seconds for the whole kingdom to realize the situation. Within 2 seconds, every single person in the site was kneeling with their heads on the ground, including the women they chose for their sacrifice. The throne room was filled with blood, cruelty, and betrayal. Yet, that woman, she stayed pure of it all. The vows were yelled loudly. The people bowed and welcomed the new king. According to the ritual, Jungkook stood tall, proud amongst his followers. The king strode towards the woman and stood in front of her, who stayed on the ground with her head down. Mine, my king. Zeke, on your feet. Mine looked up and immediately got on her feet, keeping her head low. Jungkook placed a finger under her chin and removed his blood-filled coat, wrapping it around once clean woman, now tainted in his blood. Jake, say, the king has chosen you as his bride. What might be your name? Mine balled her fists around his coat. The audience let out a collective gasp of disbelief. I am Park Wine, my king. JK, it is to turn John Wine soon, my queen. He turned and walked back to the throne, which was clean by now. He took a seat, his robe spread over the throne majestically. Wine followed him and stood at the distance, hands joined in front of her. Wine, congratulations on your victory, my king. JK, today the whole kingdom must be served a feast, and you, my queen, say your wish, and I must have it fulfilled. Wine, anything? Something about the little courage from her, the one who requested and trusted Jungkook like nothing else but that night did. JK, anything. Wine gulped and took a step forward. The silence that followed the demand was thick and cutting. Blood sacrifice ritual was the biggest ceremony of the kingdom's arrest. As soon as Prince is born, he is taught about ruthlessness and prepared for the day he has to kill his brothers. Lady, have you reflected upon your words? The ritual is the most important to select a ruler. Such absurd demands. One gulped, her eyes shifted towards Jungkook. One, my king, I am aware. The ritual takes place so the king can rule with logic, without letting emotions overrule him. With sacrificing an innocent human enables him to erase any obstacles that might ever come his way. One, I am aware. A ruler can never rule without having a strong heart, but an innocent must never be killed. A ruler, warrior, or anyone must never be comfortable with killing an innocent, and a brother must never be taught to kill his own brothers. Such nonsense, insulting the kingdom's rules. The royal secretary continued to yell, yet sealed his mouth when the king raised his finger. His blood-filled cold eyes shifted towards the man who immediately cowered in fear and fell on his knees. No, my king. Jungkook smiled in satisfaction before he shifted his focus back to wine. Wine, thank you, your majesty. The word was going to spread. The history was about to change by one wish from the queen on her first moment of declaration. The other kingdoms might prepare to announce war in a few years once they think that finally the kingdom's right could be conquered. But Jungkook was born cruel. He was never letting that happen. JK, take your queen to the chambers. One moment she was a sacrifice, the next she was a queen who was escorted with such respect to her newly assigned chambers. The king stayed behind, setting up the foundation of his ruling. Zeke, I'm curious. How were you caught? One, my parents specially told me to stay hidden at the day of blood sacrifice ritual, but I think the guards must have done their research before they barged in. One, why was I chosen as your bride? Zeke, you enticed me, my queen. I wish to ask you the same question. Why did you make me choose you as my bride? Wine gulped and looked at him confused. JK, I'd never decided to break the rules and fight my brothers in first round. Never planned to kill my father. And certainly never dreamt of having the ritual cancelled. JK, you have amazed me by the things you made me do at your first night. I wonder, what else will I be doing to fulfill every desire that ever escapes that mouth? He placed his fingers under her chin while looked in those eyes of a predator, being so gentle with its prey, as if instead of feasting, they had been decided to protect them forever, and Vine realized the obsession that had just grown in them. Vine, then, can I meet my family? She tried. JK, anytime. You may also have them at the palace. Take the lead. Vine, animals? I like animals. Can I also have a pet? JK, any pet chosen by you must be treated as a royal pet with its own servants. Vine curled. Why? She was just trying. Maybe she could push the boundaries a little? JK, red? Wine, I mean, the king looks quite charming in red. It might make me jealous. Jungkook chuckled. Amusement and disbelief reflected his eyes. Wine was taken aback. She believed it would make him mad, but hands down, he wasn't in such disbelief at the demand of blood sacrifice ritual cancelling as much as he was at this. JK, then I must only wear them in front of my queen. Did one want to scream? Yes. Could she do it? No. JK, is there anything else? One. That is all for the night. JK, then I must wait for tomorrow. Until then, I would like you to have some rest. It was a huge day for you. He caressed her cheek with his hand so rough from multiple wars. A day, she was a common person belonging to a kingdom, living a normal life. The next day, she was forcefully taken as a sacrifice, and the exact night, she was declared as the queen of the cruelest kingdom, with its king on her feet. That was really a long day for her.